hello and welcome. I am Venetia Zanetis coming to you live from Cyprus. And today, a special guest for you. His name is David Snyder, and he will share knowledge on how to unlock your natural inner powers to tap into unlimited success, unlimited love, money, freedom, inner power, and more. David specializes in the mechanics of the mind, and he helps thousands worldwide overcome limiting beliefs, gain confidence, remove unwanted habits and behaviors, clear traumas, and we all know that's a big one, program your subconscious for success, tap into your inner natural power for unlimited prosperity in different areas of life. And that's what he's going to talk about today. David Snyder is a worldwide instructor in NLP, hypnotherapy, peak performance, and rapid transformation. And so, ladies and gentlemen, coming to us all the way from California, USA, please welcome Mr. David Snyder. David.
And the crowd goes wild.
Woo!
Thank you. I love doing these interviews with you, Venetia, because every time you do, it sounds like you're introducing somebody. I have no idea who you're talking about. So thank you so much for that wonderful and glowing introduction. How can I help you all today?
David, so it's always an honor to interview you. I love doing live interviews with you. So thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
My pleasure.
David, I have some questions for you. I'm really eager to hear what you have to say. So when you're ready, let's get the show on the road.
All right, hit me.
Not all right. So David, my first question is, many people have a vision, a dream, a big dream, something they want to do, something they wish to accomplish, and they work so hard toward achieving that vision, only to find that they repeat unwanted behaviors and habits that sabotage them. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, why do people repeat unwanted behaviors and habits? Why do they do that? And how can we remove them and adopt new self-empowering ways of being?
Well, the first thing that we need to understand about why people repeat the same limiting behaviors over and over again is usually because it's one of two things, really, two big categories. One is it's either a lack of skill set, in other words, they don't know to do anything different, or it's a mindset issue. In other words, the unconscious mind has a program in place that is causing that behavior to repeat itself whenever certain environmental stimuli or contexts are created. And because your neurology is basically hardwired to sort for what's familiar, in other words, if you've gone through an experience that happened when you were 12, and maybe, just to use an example, like stage fright, right? Yeah. Most of us know that when we hit adulthood, that getting up on stage is not that big a deal, even though it's still the number one fear. It rates higher than death amongst the fears that people have in terms of public speaking. But when we're 12 years old, we get up on stage to do a report, or in front of a group to do a report, and all of a sudden, the unconscious mind gets overwhelmed by the moment, and it says to itself, not in so many words, but in terms of feelings, it goes, wow, we're really in trouble here. We're really in danger. He's really uncomfortable. I got to get him out of this. I know if I just pretend to be dead, or I freeze up like I would when I was evolving as an ape, being hunted by predators, maybe they'll go away. And literally what will happen in that one moment, that fight or flight response will kick in. And one of three things will happen when you go into fight or flight. You're either going to run, you're going to freeze, or you're going to faint. In other words, you're just going to fight, right? And in terms of what happens here, we're seeing a freeze response. Well, the kid gets up, he goes to do his presentation, he goes into that freeze response. After a few minutes, the audience kind of giggles or whatever. The teacher says, okay, go sit down or whatever. The crisis has been averted, right? That behavior worked, even though contextually it wasn't good for his long-term success in terms of the grade or in terms of the type of influence he was trying to have. That behavior saved him from that embarrassment. It saved him from that situation. And so the unconscious mind, believe it or not, logs that as a success. And
So
so
it's
what
a
happens
coping
is,
mechanism.
is that?
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, it is. And most of the things, especially when we're young, will be derivatives of the fight or flight response because the unconscious mind doesn't have any other programs or resources to sort for. And of course, the more powerful, the further you go back in a person's history, the more powerful and more pervasive those early memories become. That's why when we do our regression work, no matter what people have when they come in the door, if someone comes in my door, 35 years old, they broke up with their marriage broke up 4 years ago, they still haven't gotten past it, and you regress that person back to the first scene, situation, or event that is the source of that being inability to move forward. They're not 30 years old anymore. They're 5 years old in their living room watching their parents argue, or something completely unrelated from a modern perspective to why they're in your treatment room. So the vast majority of things that happen to us or that cause bad behaviors for us later on, or limiting beliefs for us later on, actually happened back in the 0 to 5, 0 to 7 range. And they happened as defense mechanisms to help us cope with a difficult situation that in that moment, in that context, worked. Now, because the unconscious mind always sorts for what's familiar, you're 25, 30 years old, you're ready to launch your new business, you're excited about pitching your product, your live stream, you get in front of that group of people, the first thing that your unconscious mind is going to do is say, hey, have we ever been in this situation before? Unconscious mind is going to sort through its little filing cabinet. It's going to say, yes. And then the unconscious mind is going to ask, well, what did we do? We did this. And the unconscious mind goes, okay, we'll do that again. And that's exactly what happens. You'll see another variant of this happen a lot of times in entrepreneurs, especially.
Okay, so David, how can
sorry.
So this is all a coping mechanism. So how can one remove old ways of old sabotaging ways and adopt new ways?
Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to get the filter that keeps the unconscious mind from changing very quickly out of the way.
Adopt new self.
Yeah, you've got to. There's a filter. There's a mechanism within each of us. I don't know if you're hearing this or not. There's a mechanism in each of us called the critical faculty, and it's a filter. It's a mechanism that acts kind of like a gatekeeper. And in certain forms of therapeutic interventions and law of attraction processes, we can literally take that filter and put it on a shelf. And when we can take that filter and put it on the shelf, we can access the unconscious mind very, very quickly. We can follow its history and its memories back to where they're stored. And we can reprogram those memories, or we can change those memories and our perspective on those memories and install a better option than what's been there. And then when we're done with that process, we can put that critical faculty filter back in place. And now that as the system takes over again, it'll start to reinforce and move us towards behaviors that are in harmony with the changes that we've made. So it's a very straightforward process in terms of what we're going to do. But depending on how a person relates and how they've created that complex, the modalities we use to get there might change a little bit.
So is this a procedure someone can go through by themselves in the comfort of their own home?
Certain levels of it, yes. We have a version, a home study version of the process we're going to be teaching out in Cyprus called the Identity by Design. But for certain things, the really deep level stuff, it's very, very difficult for even trained practitioners to do their work on themselves. So to be your own therapist for a lot of these things, not the recommended approach. It's like Bambi versus Godzilla. You have the book in one hand, so to speak, and this gargantuan monster in the other, and wondering why you can't kind of, put two and two together. So really, if this is something that you need a coach for, or a therapist, or whatever the word is that people would use, a guide, for lack of a better word. And when you're guided adeptly through these processes, change can become very, very quick, and it becomes very, very pervasive.
Wow, so change can be quick and change can be easy, right?
Yes, it can.
So all this mumbo jumbo that you need therapy for years, it's all lies.
Yeah,
it's not true.
Most people wind up talking about their problems after 12 years. All they're doing is still talking about their problems.
Exactly.
The problems haven't changed. They've usually gotten worse.
Yeah, exactly, because they keep revisiting the past. Wow. So thanks for that, David. So just for our viewers out there, David Snyder will be performing live in Cyprus this May 27th to May the 31st. David Snyder will be teaching real-world hypnosis, identity by design. So ladies and gents, this is a 5-day hypnotherapy certification training. So it's intensive. It's the first of its kind in Cyprus. And ladies and gentlemen, it's here to change your life. So click on the link that should be somewhere around your screen and reserve your spot now. David, tell us a little bit about your training.
Well, the Identity by Design silo is a full-scale hypnotherapy certification. You would learn all of the different aspects that you would learn in a classical hypnosis training, but you're also going to get our new and more cutting-edge approach to it. And this particular training, in addition to teaching you instant and rapid inductions, conversational hypnosis, pain control, rapid physical and emotional pain removal, imagination games, and things like that, it's going to teach you a very specific 7-stage process. A 7-stage process, each piece targets a building block of your identity and personality. So the first stage will be resolving negativity that you've accumulated over the years, stuff you didn't even know you had. It'll just go in and just whitewash or soak everything, like pressure cleaning the inside of your garage or your septic tank. It just cleans everything out, whether you even know it was there or not. Then we go into the next level, which is what we call specialized negativity clearing, which is basically for, going back to that metaphor of the entrepreneur, the kid who's afraid of stage, talking to people on stage. When we have certain experiences, the unconscious mind says, hey, I need to make sure he never forgets or she never forgets this, so I'm going to keep a little bit of this pain no matter what he does to get rid of it, so he's always aware not to do that again. And so what will happen many times is when people try to go forward after a bad failure or a business failure or something like that, they can't get out of the gate because this little mechanism in the back of the head says, hey, remember that problem you had? I'm not going to let you do it again because you might have to have pain again if you do it again. So there's a second level to Identity by Design where we go in, we remove all those safety lessons that keep you from moving forward. From there, we're going to go into that what we call voice of authority, which is how we literally reprogram that voice in your head so it only says things that build you up instead of tearing you down. Then we're going to teach you 4 default psycho-emotional driver states that actually hardwire you for success. Relentless, victorious, curious, and playful. We're going to teach your system how to have these states as a default mechanism and how to amplify them on demand so that they move you forward instead of holding you back. From there, we're going to take all of that. We're going to actually systematically remove all the negativity from your past. In other words, we're going to literally split your memories, positive and negative. We're going to drain all the energy out of the negative memories so that there's nothing left to support them. We're going to move that energy all the way into your positive memories so that those memories get bigger and brighter and stronger, so that when you look back on the past, you only remember a past that makes your life better, that moves you forward and makes you more resourceful. We're going to take that whole sequence, compress it down, and actually install it in you before your very first memory. So it literally becomes a template or a foundation that all of your life experiences are viewed upon, so that you move through the world, and every time you relive those memories, you're going to relive them differently because the person experiencing that event was different. And so you have more resources, you make better decisions, and you become a very, very different person from the inside, because the foundation of our identity and the defense mechanisms that hold our identity in place are our memories. And so as we modify the resources we had, we become more resourced in the future. Then we're going to take all that and we're going to teach you a very specialized technique that allows you to take the qualities and characteristics and attributes of people whose accomplishments you admire, people whose traits you'd like to have for yourself. And we're going to teach you how to install those on top of that amazing new identity that you've created, so you can have those skills and abilities for yourself. And so we call it Identity by Design because it literally allows you to custom renovate your entire internal sense of self, your self-esteem, your self-image, to install and amplify qualities and characteristics and talents that give you the life you want and allow you to be the person you want to be, instead of the person that the universe or your lifestyle programmed you to be.
Wow, real world hypnosis, identity by design. Guys,
Pretty
this
cool.
is definitely the place to be. David, I remember attending your event, Identity by Design, in the UK. When was that? 3 years ago?
About 3 years ago.
And what an amazing, knowledgeable, insightful training it was. Very intense, but very much needed, and it's changed my life.
Yeah.
It was really highly recommended, guys. Highly recommended.
What's really interesting about Identity by
So
Design.
excellent. Thanks for that, David.
Go ahead.
No.
Yeah, there's a little bit of lag, so sometimes we inadvertently walk on each other. One of the interesting things about Identity by Design is it's an ideal supplement for people who are already doing this kind of work, and it's a great primer for people who are new to it. It takes you from nothing to expert in like 5 concentrated days. And what's interesting about Identity by Design is that I've seen a lot of hypnosis trainings. I've taught a lot of different hypnosis curriculums and things like that. I have never seen a course that makes people so good so fast as Identity by Design does. I don't know, exactly what it is. I can point to pieces of it as to why that's true, but consistently, over and over again, every time we take a new cadre of brand new know-nothing people, we run them through this process, they come out of it completely unstoppable. We have it on record where I have 12 of my students literally hypnotizing each other and doing change work in the lobby of a hotel undergoing renovations right next to an operating jackhammer with complete success. I mean, anytime, anywhere, for any reason. So I'm really, really proud of the people who go through this process, and you're one of them, because it does really give you skills that you can use anywhere. So, and it works. The process, the level of change work, the scope of the change work that people experience who undergo this process is off the charts. Self-esteem, self-confidence, people just start changing all around you because you've become a different person. Your identity inside that has been literally subconsciously programming the people all around you to treat you a certain way. And when that changes, their behaviors tend to change spontaneously. It's really cool to see.
I did leave the training a different person. I did leave more confident. I was more self-assured. I knew I had more clarity about what I wanted, and I was more confident.
You were voracious in class. You were taking more notes than I've ever seen.
And I do feel that I have achieved more in my life because of the training. I do feel that. And David, this is exactly why I want to bring you to Cyprus, because I know your stuff works.
Well,
see?
Thank you for that.
Amazing stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks to David. So my next question is, David, what are subconscious, what are belief systems, and to which level do our belief systems influence our lives, and how can we overcome them?
Well, first of all, beliefs are our life. There's a, and you'll learn about this at Identity by Design. There's a feedback loop in the human nervous system called the perception belief feedback loop. Your beliefs influence what you can perceive and become aware of, and those perceptions influence and reinforce the beliefs that you have. And so it takes a very, very dramatic influx of stimuli that's different from your belief system to knock that system loose and allow space for an example.
Give us an example.
Religious conversion. If you've ever had people who've let's say they grew up in an abusive household, they became an alcoholic or a drug abuser, and they reach the lowest point of their life. Their life is just a tremendous train wreck. People like this. They're living on the street, living out of the back seat of their car, and at some point it gets so bad that something has to change, and they find religion, or they find some self-help book that just it breaks through that shell around their belief system, and everything changes, right? I'll give you another brief, a kind of funny example.
How does it break through, though?
Sorry?
How does it break through?
Well, a lot of times it's traumatic. A lot of times it's the beliefs and the world that a person has been living in becomes so painful that the neurology becomes desperate for anything else. And that's one of the problems that we have. You'll see in a lot of times in in cult indoctrinations and things like that, they will literally, especially when they're doing cult deprogramming, the person undergoing that process will go through so much internal pressure that at some point, just some random comment by the deprogrammer causes that entire belief system inside their head that's been installed in them to crack, and it becomes open to something else. When I talk about religious conversion, many times when people are looking to make a change, they reach for something that's greater than themselves. And in that moment, a window opens that allows them to rise above the beliefs that they had and access what we call meta beliefs. And meta beliefs are beliefs about your beliefs. And the way that works, and you'll learn about this in Identity by Design, the higher up that meta belief chart you go, the more control you have over the things below you. So we often confuse things in our environment, things about our capabilities, things about our behaviors with who we are as a person. And that's what we call a confusion of levels of belief. You'll learn about how to change that. But I'll give you a funny story of a more abrupt way to change somebody's belief. I have a 9th degree black belt in the martial arts. And some of the arts that I study, I almost always seek out the most controversial martial arts I can find, because I want to find out if there's anything to them, and if there is, how I can steal it and use it. Well, one of the arts that I studied many, many years ago, and I still practice today in my own way, is an art called Kyusho Jitsu, which literally means pressure point or vital point fighting. And back in the late 90s and early part of 2000, there was a massive amount of controversy about whether this stuff would actually work. And so people would come into our seminars screaming to, they had 20 years in the martial arts, screaming to high heaven that this stuff wasn't real, that this couldn't work, that they know everything there was to know about the art that they were practicing. And so we'd hit them. We'd literally just tap them on pressure points and watch them pass out. And we'd put them in the corner and wait for them to wake up. And then ask them, you believe it now? And about half the time, people would look at us and go, I don't know where you learned that, but tell them they've got another student, right? And that's what I mean when I say an abrupt shot from left field that completely is outside of the current belief system that you have. And many times it's just being able to be given an experience that opens that map you have of the way the world works to something better. And that's what Identity by Design is about. You don't have to, the best part about the Identity by Design process, it circumvents by belief by not having to need belief in order to make it work. When you do things like spinning or magic frame, which if you go to our YouTube channel, you say point to where you feel, take it out, reach out, spin it, touch it, put it back in, you don't have to believe that works for it to work. And that's what's so cool about it, is the moment you have an experience that falls outside of your belief system, that takes you outside of what you thought was possible, and you have that experience, well, that belief system, that worldview that you have, has a huge gaping crack in it now, and that crack is a window. It's a window that allows you to expand who you thought you were, what you were capable of. The scope and the majesty of the world that you live in amplifies dramatically. And so instead of living your life in a little box, you can now see through that hole to a world that's much bigger than the box you were living in. And so the whole Identity by Design system is designed to give you one experience like that after another, that takes you level by level by level from this little tiny box of what you thought you could be, and expands it, and it keeps expanding it until you realize just how powerful you really are, and it gives you the power to go out and actually make changes in other people in exactly the same way, in seconds many times.
Yes, I have witnessed that firsthand. This is excellent. I'm excited. Mm-hmm. This is amazing stuff. So for the viewers out there, David Snyder will be performing live in Cyprus this May 27th to the 31st.
I'm excited about it.
I'm excited. David will be teaching real-world hypnosis, Identity by Design. Ladies and gents, this is a 5-day hypnotherapy certification training. It's intensive. It's the first of its kind in Cyprus, and it's here to change your life. So click on the link that is on somewhere around your screen and reserve your seat now. So, David, are we ready to continue?
Absolutely.
So, David, why are some people completely confident? So they have a vision in their mind and they're completely confident as they pursue their goals. while other people have a vision, but they're drowning in fear and doubt regarding their target. So why does this happen? And how can someone lose the fear, lose the doubt, and boost their confidence?
Well, that's a really good question. And the truth is that we talk about confidence. There's a lot of moving parts to that. And a lot of it goes back to those 7 stages we were talking about, the past experiences that you've had, the kind of upbringing that you were exposed to. What were the belief systems of your parents? Did they encourage you to do things? Were they fearful? What kind of teachers and mentors did you have? Did they serve as positive role models? A lot of it is how you actually represent situations and circumstances inside your own mind. There's a code that forms the foundation, a program, if you will, that determines how fearful you are or how confident you are. And confidence is really just the lack of fear. And I have a whole speech on confidence that I usually give to people. I tell them confidence is bullshit. And the reason for that is that I'm kind of like the anti-guru in the self-help world, in that the self-help world as a rule has taught you that in order to be successful, you have to be confident. Right? I'm sure you've heard something similar. If you just believe in yourself and you're confident, it doesn't always happen. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and hopefully your subscribers and your viewers can kind of follow along with this. Has there ever been something in your life, some task or a goal that you wanted, that you didn't really feel all that confident in your ability to get it done, but you decided to do it anyway? You just sucked up that relentless energy, that determination, and you went and you did it and you nailed it? Has that ever happened? Let me ask you a question. When did the confidence come?
Yep.
It came afterwards, didn't it?
Well, the confidence came after.
Right?
After
That's
I
my
finished.
point. If you're waiting to be confident before you can do something, you're going to be waiting a long time and probably never. In fact, one of the catch-22s about confidence is if you ask a confident person if they need confidence, they'll say yes. There's no top level of confidence. So the first thing about confidence you understand is you don't need it to be successful. You need to have a desire and a relentless determination to get what you want. Tony Robbins will tell you when there's 2 things you need. I think, or maybe it was 3 things. You need to know what you want. You need to have relentless. You want to do whatever it takes to get there. You know, and you have passion for it, right? So it's that relentless part that most people miss. You don't need to be smart. You don't need to be exceptionally talented. You need to be relentless, not confident. Relentless people get more stuff. But once
Are you saying confidence is not necessary? Are you saying confidence is fake? What are you saying?
I'm saying confidence is an emotion or a state that comes after you've achieved something. And most people aren't.
So that means when you go out to achieve that something again.
Yeah. See, most people who say they want to be more confident, what they're really saying is, I want to stop being afraid. Right? And that's what it's about. And so what we're talking about isn't necessarily confidence. It's relentlessness combined with courage. Because the most fearless people I know are usually dead. The people that you think of as confident have just as many insecurities as the people who are afraid. It's just that they've represented in their own mind and in their own neurology. They've encoded.
So I have another.
Go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
Okay, so I have another question now in connection to the previous question. So when you set out to achieve that same task for the second and third and fourth time, then obviously the more you achieve the task, the more confidence you build, right?
Because it becomes familiar. Remember we talked about that whole familiar sorting mechanism that the neurology has?
Because it becomes familiar. So again, it boils down to the mind and the neurology.
Yep. It always does. It always comes down to how your neurology is encoding your experiences and playing those videos for you.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's not confidence, it's practice. It's repetition to make the task familiar to your system. It's not confidence.
Yeah, once you make the decision that you're going to go for it, once you've decided you want it and you apply the concept and the trait of relentlessness to your task, after that it's just repetition and observation, calibrating the results that you get, making changes and moving forward again. Confidence will arise as a natural byproduct of that process.
David, I'm sure that your answer to this question will help many people.
Help me.
A lot of clarity in your answer, a lot of clarity there. Okay, so once again for the viewers, David Snyder will be performing live in Cyprus, May 27th to the 31st. David will be teaching real-world hypnosis, identity by design. Ladies and gents, this is a 5-day hypnotherapy certification training. It's intensive. It's the first of its kind in Cyprus, and it's here to change your life. So click on the link that is somewhere around your screen. Reserve your seat now, and we are happy to see you soon. David, are you ready to move on to the next question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so David, guide us through the process of trauma.
Trauma.
You see, yeah. So I mean, the reason why I'm asking this question today is because many people come to me with trauma issues, and I want to get the information out there because I've witnessed your training and I know it's amazing and it helps traumatic experiences. So I mean, so many people out there suffer from some form of trauma. So how can one overcome a traumatic experience?
Well, there's 3 primary paths that we use. We have one of the most effective, and based on our clinical results anyway, and from what we're getting from our students all over, we have one of the most comprehensive trauma recovery programs and systems I think is available today. And trauma, there's 3 basic avenues that you can use to remove a trauma. You can basically attack the structure of it. In other words, remember I said there's a code that your neurology uses to create and record your experience. It's kind of like the language that a computer might use to imprint a video or an audio of somebody on a DVD, right? Okay. So there's basically 3 ways that you can address that. And our system touches on all 3. The first is the story of what happened. We can literally put that critical faculty off to the side. We can go back. We can vent the energy and the emotion and the arousal and the negativity of that experience. We can change a person's perspective on what happened. We can even change the memory of what happened if that's necessary to alleviate the emotional charge and give the person the resources they need to deal with that. That's part 1. The second part is we can deal with how they've encoded it. In other words, if you can think of, if you were to take a picture of like a little video clip of a stream running through a forest, and if you played a very light, happy soundtrack with that, you would have a very happy experience of that stream. If I were to take the soundtrack and change it to something like macabre or foreboding, you would have a much different experience of the same picture, right? What you're seeing there is what we call a coding system intervention. Your neurology encodes information through multiple layers, and these structural pieces actually tell your neurology how to play a memory and how to play the experience inside yourself. So you can actually change that. You can literally take something that feels bad and code it to something that feels good and dramatically change how your neurology plays it. You can change a belief that's strong and change it and move it to a spot around you or inside of you where you stored limiting beliefs, and you will no longer have a strong belief that holds you back anymore. These are structural approaches. So that's level 2 of what we do. And then finally, what if I just took that DVD and I threw it in the fire and melted it? Took that plastic and put it back into a mold and made a brand new DVD. That's what we call a substance intervention, where we can literally take the matrix or the medium that vibrational information is encoded on. We can change the substance, we can change the code, and we can change the story all at the same time.
And I experienced that firsthand 3 years ago at your training in London.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew things like that existed.
It's crazy. I look at it after doing it.
It's crazy.
I got the first download for this technology in 2005, And after 14 years of watching it, I still look at it half the time and I go, that shouldn't work. That just shouldn't work. And yet every time I see it happen over and we released some of that technology for free on YouTube so people could get the help they needed without having to come into San Diego or whatever.
Yes.
And we're getting the reports coming in from all over the world, 78 countries now. People are using this technology to get rid of pains, physical pains, emotional pains, tumors, lipomas, constipation, COPD, heart problems, all forms of PTSD, math phobias, flying phobias. We haven't seen anything that this technology hasn't put a dent in yet. You know, it's exciting
David,
to see.
I use your method, some of your methods with my clients, and
can you keep a secret? Can you keep a secret?
I try.
Olympic athletes are using my stuff.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Actually, more than one, actually, because I know the person teaching them.
It sounds so logical because this stuff is so amazing and it really works.
Yep. Yeah, it was exciting. I just found that out in February because I ran into the lady that I trained who works specifically with the Olympics and the Olympic teams. And she was telling me, yeah, they do all this and we do this. And I was like, yeah, you know, but I also have people in the Defense Department. I have people in the Pentagon, all, you know, utilizing these technologies to get ahead in their lives. And it's very gratifying to see us growing and seeing the technologies getting out there to the people who can actually, you know, make use of them and do good work.
Yeah, David, when I attended your event 3 years ago in London, I came to London with no intention of bringing you to Cyprus. Mm-hmm. But after the 5 days, after witnessing the training until today I call magic, what did I say to you? I said, David, you have to come to Cyprus.
I remember that.
You have to teach people in Cyprus. And you said very laid back, very confidently, sort it out.
And I did. That's exactly what I said. I said, if you build it, I will come. And you know what? Of all the people I've talked to in the 10 or 15 years, only a very precious few have ever taken me up on that challenge, so to speak. And you did it, and here I am. And I will be there this May, 27th to the 31st, and I will be teaching for all day long. And if people want to train at night, we'll train at night. You know, I'm there to train. And so we're gonna have fun, and we'll go as far and as deep into this material as people can prove to me that they can actually do, because everything we do is based on, you have to show me you can do it. That's how your certification is based on. So we don't put people out there with a certificate who can't do the work. And so if you really want these kinds of skills for yourself and ultimately for the people that you want to help in your life, whether that's professionally or personally, and you want skills you can rely on that will be there when you need them, under any situation or circumstance, then the Identity by Design training does that better than anything I've ever seen on the planet. And I've seen a lot.
I agree.
Admittedly, I'm biased, but don't believe me, just come to the training and experience it for yourself.
I agree, and it really just depends on, like you said, you can train all through the night, David. I've seen you do that in London. It depends on how far down the rabbit hole does everyone want to go.
That's it. You know, if people want to do it, I'll be there.
Exactly, and I've witnessed that. So once again, for our viewers, this stuff, I'm really emotional right now. I'm really happy that you're coming to Cyprus, David. So, ladies, whew, let me breathe.
Point to where you feel it.
David Snyder will be performing live in Cyprus this May 27th to May 31st. David will be teaching real world hypnosis. Ladies and gents, this is Identity by Design. It is a 5-day hypnotherapy certification training. It's intensive. It's the first of its type in Cyprus, and it's here to change your life. So click on the link that is somewhere around your screen, and we would love to see you there. So, David, are you ready to continue?
I'm absolutely ready.
All right, let's get the show on the road. So, David, how can one own their true inner power? How can a person tap into the keys of unlimited success, unlimited love, unlimited money and freedom and inner power? How can a person tap into their true inner powers?
Well, I'll lead into how people can tap into their true inner powers by starting with an old axiom that was used in a lot of the old mystery schools. People who are studying law of attraction today, which I know is where you specialize in, what you're really learning is magic. The old forms of magic, which is bringing reality into conformance with the will. The old mystery schools. Now, it doesn't really matter whether you're studying a Christian variant of it, a Buddhist variant, an Islamic variant of it, Taoist. It doesn't matter. One of the things that was an axiom in those schools, and it's dramatically true here, is the axiom, know thyself. And there's so much buried in that one phrase. When we talk about knowing thyself, it's about knowing where in your body you store certain kinds of feelings and emotions, how you've coded it, what are the roots of the beliefs that you have, and how specifically do you go in, find the source of the problem that's holding you back, resolve it, and transform it, as the alchemist would say, from lead into gold. In other words, from a negative, limiting, disempowering aspect of yourself into a purely pure and empowered law of attraction activating kind of a process. And the way you do that is through the identity by design system. And what I mean by that is you have to know how to find the stuff that's holding you back. You need to know how to deconstruct it. You need to know how to rebuild it from the inside out using feelings and structure and your body and your imagination. And once you have all those components, you can literally point to where you feel something, take it out, spin it, put it back in, and your personal power will double and triple. Well, at the same time, your limiting beliefs are going away. It's a yin-yang type of a process. As you delete one, the other gets stronger. But it's the same technology. There are just certain key elements that have to be done in the proper order. And once you have it, you can make any change you want, pretty much for any reason that you want.
This is just, it's like a miracle, isn't it?
It can sure seem that way. I make a joke. People used to say that any sufficiently advanced form of technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I find that to be functionally true. But it's also true that any well understood, deeply understood form of magic is indistinguishable from technology. And so, the results that we create seem miraculous, they seem magical, until you understand how it works from the inside. And then it doesn't exactly lose its magic, but it's now a magic that you're more certain of because you know the moving parts. To anybody who's not trained in this, it's going to look like we just waved our hands and their shit got better, right? But there's really a system to it. There's really a system to it, and there's some moving parts that we need to and principles that we need to install and internalize. And once you have installed and internalized those principles, you can make stuff up and it'll work.
Absolutely. I know. I've witnessed it firsthand. I know. So, David, what you're saying is that during your 5-day training, you can teach people how to tap into the key which is within, because a lot of people go searching outside of themselves for the key, for success, for happiness, for love, and so during your training you can teach people how to tap into the key which is within them, how to identify it, how to find it, how to tap into it, how to modify, how to use it.
Absolutely. That's really what the training is about. It's about going inside, taking an inventory of what's in there, and deciding what you want instead. Right? And that's what the foundation of our personal power is. That's what the definition of personal power is the ability to move through the world and create the changes you want by your standards and your definitions. And that has to start. That has to start inside. It can't start. You can run west. You can search all outside of you for lifetimes and only get momentary feelings of, it's like when you're starving and you finally have that food and you're okay for a while and then you get hungry again. Now you're running around outside to get another fix. The magic is inside of you, and when you tap into the magic inside of you, the reality around you shifts automatically. Things that were opportunities and people who can move your life forward that were there all along will suddenly pop into your awareness. Why? Because the filters that limited you from seeing and perceiving them in that way in the first place are gone. They move you forward. And we've seen this in psychological and scientific studies done by Psychology Today, where people who identify themselves as being lucky find money on the ground more often than people who don't. They've tested this. That was one of the, actually I did a whole product called Get Lucky for Life, which is all about the 5 psychological characteristics that lucky people have. And if you have Identity by Design training, you can actually install those 5 traits and become spontaneously more lucky. It's crazy how it works. But the attributes have nothing to do with magic as we understand it, and everything to do with psychological traits. And the first one is the identity that you have.
So, David, you will teach everyone how to find the key that's within. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, David Snyder will be performing live in Cyprus this May 27th to the 31st. David will be teaching real-world hypnosis, identity by design. It's a 5-day hypnotherapy certification training. It's intense. It's the first of its kind. And in Cyprus, so click on the link and book your seat now. So David Snyder, thank you so much for being here with us today.
You're welcome.
David, it's always a pleasure to interview you, to see you. Your energy is through the roof. It's amazing. You are awesome. You are so knowledgeable. And I just love to interview you.
I love being interviewed by you, so let's do it more often.
Thank you. David, if you could leave the audience with one tip on how to master their life, or if you could leave the audience with one famous saying that resonates with you, or a saying of your own, what would it be?
The very fact that you can be on this video or on this call and listen to this conversation means that whatever crap you went through, whatever things you suffered through, you've already beaten. By definition, you were strong. The fact that you're in this room able to hear this, able to watch this, means you were already stronger than the things you faced. The rest is just cleanup, and that's what we're going to help you do when you come out to Cyprus. We're going to help you clean that shit up, reclaim your power, and move your life forward by your standards and your definitions. We're going to teach you how to get the life you want the way that you want it.
Wow, that was so sharp. I love that. Wow, so ladies and gentlemen, you can find David Snyder and myself on social media. So David, you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, you're on LinkedIn, any other platforms you're currently on?
I occasionally share on Twitter or Instagram or Pinterest, but mostly YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn are the big 3. We also have a website for those of you who care. It's www.nlppower.com. And we have a pretty...
Hey, I was getting to that.
I'll let you go then.
Okay, so David Snyder's YouTube channel comes highly recommended. That's where I first discovered David Snyder. Everything began from his YouTube channel. I started watching some of his videos, and this guy just mesmerized me, and I said, I have to see this guy in person. Some years later, I flew to London. I attended his real-world hypnosis event 3 years ago, and this month he's flying to Cyprus, and it all started from one YouTube video. So you can find David Snyder and myself on social media platforms. You could also visit David Snyder's website, www.nlppower.com, and you can see all of his work there, discover more about David Snyder, everything he does. He has videos, he has audios, he has online courses, he has trainings, all designed to change your life for the better. You can also visit my website, venetiansceneris.com. David, thank you so much. It's always an honor to interview you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here today. I just want to show the scenery to everybody. This place is absolutely beautiful, ladies and gentlemen. So for those of you because a lot of people are actually flying Cyprus for David Snyder's event. It's not just local people are flying to Cyprus. This place is beautiful. It's so peaceful, and this will be the atmosphere, the scenery we will be working in. So we would love live event, real world hypnosis, identity by design. David Snyder, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay positive, stay healthy, stay aligned with your dreams.